How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Zekko football channel. Wolverhampton Wanderers pulled off one of the results of the weekend. I'd argue the result of the season when they beat Manchester City by 2-1. And although we covered it on the recap, I think it deserves a little bit more attention. It's just that kind of a result. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing right now. We're going to be going through some stats, and then we're going to be moving on and looking at some in-game moments, breaking them down and figuring out what Wolves did so well. If you are new to the channel, please make sure that you subscribe, you like the video, and you turn on those notifications. It really does help me out. Right, let's get into it. The first thing we're going to do is have a look at the average positions, because I think that Gary O'Neill did an absolute masterclass in how to defend against Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. They lined up in a 3-4-3, and what they did was just condense the space in the middle of the pitch, and that meant that Man City just couldn't operate in those central areas that we know they are famous for really demolishing and utilising. And if we have a look here, we can see that we have already the three centre-backs here. Here's the wing-back, here's another wing-back. But look at the amount of presence that's in and around the box and together. And it means that Man City cannot, for the life of them, play through the middle of this Wolverhampton Wanderers side. And if we show you the Manchester City average positions, you'll see what I mean. Look at this. Look how narrow Man City are. Look how close they are together. They're not utilising the wings. They're not utilising the wide areas. And that's where Wolves were sending them. Wolves were sending them out wide because they didn't want them to play through them. The likes of Matheus Nunes, the likes of Mateo Kovacic, Julian Alvarez playing through the middle of that Manchester City midfield. And it meant that without the creative presence of a Kevin De Bruyne, Man City really failed to create and open some clear-cut opportunities. And I think it was expertly read by Gary O'Neill. The next thing that I want to look at are the player stats, because I think Wolves need to be given a lot of credit for the duels that they won against Manchester City. If we have a look at the ground duels won here, you can see João Gomez had 12 duels, Matheus Cunha had 11, Pedro Neto had 11. Now, that's 34 duels in between three people, and Jeremy Doku is the only one that's got more than that with 15. He won 9 of them, but he also gave the ball away 21 times. This indicates that Wolves were being extremely aggressive. They were always on Manchester City, never giving them enough time, never giving them some space to be able to work out what they want to do next. I was extremely impressed with their intensity and the way they wanted to go forwards. Their running game that they've now added to their team is extremely impressive, and that's through Gary O'Neill, through the encouragement to really run down the flanks. We've seen the likes of Pedro Neto and Nelson Semedo, along with Ryan Aït-Nouri and Hwang Hee-chan, be able to go forwards down the wings and make sure they've always got that running presence. They always have an out. The energy from Matheus Cunha just makes Wolves now a very aggressive, high-energy side. Without the likes of Ruben Neves as well in midfield, João Gomez is able to follow them in as well. And all of a sudden, this Wolves side looked like a team with an abundance of energy. And yes, while we did have a look at the attacking momentum bar, I do think that it's rather misleading. Yes, Wolves didn't have too many chances, and actually they only had one shot on goal. But that doesn't matter when you win the game by 2-1. 32% possession. Man City dominated all of these statistics, but one crucial thing that I really want to show you is that they only had an expected goals of 0.87. That is horrendous for a Manchester City side, and it doubles back into the thing that we talked about just a second ago. The fact that Manchester City could not work out that Wolves wanted them to play in the centre of the pitch, where they had most of their defenders. And then we can see a lot of the other chances. Wolves actually had one big chance compared to Manchester City's 0. This is huge. Wolves made sure that they only allowed certain opportunities to Man City, and it was something that City could not deal with. Remember that the goal that they scored was actually a free kick. It didn't come from open play. It was the first time that we've probably seen a defensive side really get the better of this Manchester City attack. Erling Haaland barely had any touches. He wasn't able to get into the match, and that's down to the formation, the tenacity, and the drive that Gary O'Neill has given this Wolverhampton Wanderers side. It was superb, a defensive masterclass. Let's now take a look at some in-game moments, because I really think this highlights how well Wolves did from a defensive point of view. The first thing that I want to mention is look how close all of the players are together. This is the Wolves defensive line, this is their attacking line. Look how close they are. It's incredible. The pockets of space are just not available for Manchester City to be able to play through, and that means that these players are essentially in no man's land. They're not going to receive the ball, they're not going to be able to turn because of the aggressive nature of Wolves, and it means that Man City can no longer go through the middle of the pitch. It's forcing them out wide. Look at the space out wide here. There's so much space, but again, Wolves want them to go there because it's easier. Crosses are going to be dealt with the likes of Dawson and Max Kilman. And on the top of that, it also means that there is an easier time to recover for the Wolves back line, and it means that they can't get in behind. A really, really clever piece of defending and defensive setup by Gary O'Neill. If we forward, we can see how it pays off. Dawson gets a touch on this pass from the likes of Matheus Nunes into Erling Haaland. Matheus Nunes spins and then plays the pass across. Haaland should have a tap in, but because of the recovery time being so short for Dawson, it means that Haaland has a more difficult opportunity and Dawson manages to get his foot on it. Let's take a look at another motion. Here is the same instance. You can see Matheus Nunes out on this right hand side, ready to spin in behind. He's spun in behind Semedo and he's ready to receive the pass. The pass is about to be played from Ruben Diaz over to Matheus Nunes. Haaland is then going to spin around, but he's currently being marked by Dawson. Now, because the distance that I'm going to highlight here, because that distance is so short between where they are and where they're going, it means that Dawson can recover that little bit easier. So even if the pass does come in, which it does from Matheus Nunes, it means that Dawson has a fighting chance against the best striker in the world. Let's fast forward, because I want to talk about Wolves' running power as well. The drive and determination from Pedro Neto, who really does seem to be back to his best, was absolutely sensational. But again, this is a very thought out process. They've done this and made themselves difficult and compact to be able to isolate the wide areas, and it's really this scenario that is indicative of the way that Wolves approach the match. Pedro Neto is about to go on his run down the channel, but what I want to focus on before we do that are the Manchester City players. We have Kovacic here, we have Phil Foden here, Matheus Nunes here, and then that's essentially the entire midfield. Again, Foden came inside far too much for my liking. Alvarez is off the picture currently, but what we've seen here is that Pedro Neto has just beaten them. He's now on to the Manchester City back line and they're still in the Wolves half. Now, it's an amazing run, but it's also something that is really exploiting the likes of Man City. They're far too committing onto the Wolverhampton Wanderers defence, because they have to be, but they didn't go out wide. And the fact that they did that means there are spaces in behind. There's spaces in behind Ake, there are spaces in behind Walker, but of course they targeted Ake because of his lack of pace. And if we fast forward this just a moment, we can see that he's beaten Ake, he's beaten Phil Foden, and now he's on to goal. Now he's running. But I also want to focus on this player right here. I want to focus on Cunha, because although it's an own goal, and although Pedro Neto does get the benefit of the doubt and he gets a little bit of luck, Cunha will be there. And it's this kind of movement, it's this kind of momentum, the running power that Gary O'Neill has instilled in this Wolverhampton Wanderers side that gave Manchester City the problems that they did. Again, Cunha running into the box, Neto finding that space around Ake, and although it gets deflected, you can see Hwang Hee-chan as well in the bottom left hand side of your screen. He's ready to call for it, he's calling for it, he's begging for it. Look, he's about to run into goal, and it's this kind of running power that Wolves didn't have last season. The idea of driving towards the box, the energy, the heart, the determination. And again, like I said, although it gets an unfortunate deflection from Man City, there are arguably two different passes for Neto to make. So it's arguably going to be a goal anyway, and it's really well worked. Dynamism, energy, fantastic. And here's another still image of it. It's just brilliantly worked. Now let's focus on the second goal. Manchester City have gotten their goal back from that free kick. And now let's talk about the running power yet again. Here we have Max Kilman. He's about to play a ball over the top towards Nelson Semedo. And again, Another player that is willing to run into space, run in behind, make Manchester City work. This is something that Wolves did brilliantly. The two Man City players cannot keep up with him. He drives towards the box, and although they stand him up, he manages to get his cross in. It gets deflected, but here is Hwang Ki-chan, like the first goal, ready to come in to the ball for a follow-up shot. And then there is the most impressive piece of brilliance, of thought in the entire game for me, and that is Matheus Cunha being completely unselfish. He could pick up the ball and swivel, but he doesn't. He sees here, look, he sees Hwang Ki-chan ready for a tap-in, and it's this movement that not only does Edison, but it does another defender, and it means that Hwang Ki-chan can get essentially a free tap-in. A brilliant piece of movement, a brilliant piece of thought, and it's that unselfish behaviour that gave Wolves the lead. A team effort performance. They were absolutely fantastic. It gives him his goal, and Wolves win the game by 2-1. This is the final shot that I want to show you. It's Walker taking a shot from the outside of the box because he has to, because look at all of the Wolves players ready to either block, ready to defend. You can't see on the far left-hand side of your screen, but all 10 Wolves players are either adjacent to or behind the ball. It was a fantastic defensive display, and it was brilliantly orchestrated, brilliantly worked out, and I was extremely impressed. Manchester City were thwarted. They did not know what to do, and Wolves, in my mind, thoroughly deserved their victory. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What do you think about Wolves winning this game against Man City? Have Man City shown a little bit of a weak spot? Have Wolves exploited something that has been there this entire time? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on your take on this game. I would love to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, take care.